John Larkin here. As a policeman, I always knew where the high crime areas were located. Now there's a way for you to know as well right on your iPhone. It's called Crime in Place. Using current FBI data, Crime in Place steers you away from the places you don't want to be, and it works anywhere in the country. So before you go down the street or out of state, go to crimeinplace.com and get your free download of Crime in Place. Stay aware, stay safe with Crime in Place. And I got another one here. Howard, I love your shirt that you're wearing today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm rocking one of the hats from State Patriot. So for the rest of you guys, you want to make a statement and wear your flag proud. State Patriot is a clothing and apparel company on a mission to honor our nation and its heroes. While the Blue Line dry fit shirts with UPF 50 sun protectant have won my heart, State Patriot also offers a variety of patriotic gear designed to support all first responders and our military. And I'm telling you, that's military, police officers, firemen, nurses like yourself. So everybody, go check them out on Facebook and Instagram at State Patriot or visit statepatriot.com and use promo code STICKS, STICKS, for 20% off your purchase. I love their stuff.
Yeah, and the quality, man.
No, it's good. It really is.
Especially, hey, this part where you can pull the patch off, that's cool.
Yeah.
You don't get that.
No, you didn't. Yeah, you're like pulling my whole head off.
That's why I did that.
No, yeah, seriously, these hats right here, though, you can buy the different patches and slap them on there in the front. So, Howard.
Hey, Sean.
Another episode.
Hey, a pretty unique episode.
It is. So, we'll kind of get to this at some point here, but one of the highly talked about things I've been asked about through the years since Live PD came along, or even just before that, is where did you get your nickname Sticks from? And I have talked about it. There's some stories out there, but today here in studio with us on Coptales&Cocktails is the man that gave me the nickname, or at least the original form of the nickname, 25 years ago, I think. It was like 1995 or 1996. So Who knew? And here we are.
Sticks.
The Nexus of Sticks. So here in studio with us, we have got Mike Eckert, known to all of us on Tulsa Police Department as Eck. Mike, pleasure to have you here.
Hey, I am absolutely honored to be a part of this program, Sticks. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We go through this little spiel every time before we get into chit-chatting here. You know the name of this podcast is Coptales&Cocktails.
Yes,
you
sir.
bring the cocktails to us. We've got the cocktails. We let you pick today.
Yes,
What are we
sir.
sipping on?
We are sipping on little Blantons today.
Little Blantons.
Yeah, we
Yes,
are.
and I'm
this
enjoying
is
it.
pulled from. We just opened it. We just cracked a new bottle.
We did.
Well, I felt kind of bad when I talked to Stick on the phone the other day about coming to the show and asked me what my preference was. I mentioned to him Blanton's would be nice and asked him if I needed to bring a bottle. I think I offended him, to be quite honest.
Well,
I giggled.
it's kind of
yeah.
cute. We appreciate your kindness, but you're our guest. We'll provide you with all the Blantons you want.
I'm kind of
Yes.
new in the Blanton's world and have a appreciation and understanding for how difficult it is to get at times. And so the offer was simply because of that knowledge.
Yes.
But walking in the studio and seeing what you have on hand, silly question.
Now, if
My
you would have
bad.
asked for like E.H. Taylor Warehouse C, we would have had you bring your own bottle. Or if you had some Pappy 15 you wanted to drink, definitely you could bring your own bottle.
Impress
I
us.
understand.
Impress us.
I
So
understand.
cheers to you, buddy.
Cheers to you.
Thank you for being here.
Howard, thank you so much for having me.
You
Appreciate it.
absolutely. Hey, and we're here in the studio all together.
Yeah, I hear this is rare.
This is. So we've got our guy, Jason Sales, one of the Scooter Gang Bourbon boys here, kind of running our audio visual, testing out the new camera system. So we have no earmuffs on.
We don't have damn Zoom. I
Nope,
hate Zoom.
no
man.
Zoom, so-
there's like that lag. You go, hey, can I ask a question? Like 15 minutes later, they answer it. You know, it's so.
So all of our future guests, we need you to fly into Tulsa and come join us here in studio.
There you go.
Okay, Eck, before we get started, I'm sure everybody loves you. You're a wonderful person and everything, but tell us the story from your perspective, because I've heard his perspective on how he got the name Sticks.
On the nickname.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned 1995. I'm just going to go with that because I really don't remember what year it was. But relatively new officer on the department. Just celebrated my 29th year anniversary September 1st.
Congratulations.
Heck yeah.
Thank you so much. So it was at some point after 1992, but the exact time or year I don't remember. But Sticks was a frequent ride along with me and my partner. My partner was Luke Sherman at the time.
How old was he then?
How old was Sticks?
Yeah.
I think he's like 12, if I remember right. He looked like a little kid.
Pretty much was.
He was.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, you and Luke had known each other.
We did. So Luke and I actually met in college. Luke
Okay.
was already on the police department and had gone back to school to finish his degree. And I was a junior or senior maybe at that time, and we met in a class. And that was basically my introduction into the Tulsa Police Department. I had to do an internship and was able to get it set up that way.
Yeah. So internship or ride along, whatever term it would be accurate. I can't remember. I just remember you were in the back seat of the car a lot. And we had a great time.
For a
with
good
it.
reason, not a bad
no,
reason.
no,
Since
for-
I
for
was
a
a
good
teen,
reason.
I've been.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He got to ride along and I think see quite a bit of stuff. We were pretty active at the time. The footbeat assignment was responsible for all the apartment complexes in North Tulsa, which is where we were assigned. And if we weren't in the complexes, we were working the high crime areas around the complexes. So we were chasing a bunch of dope and gangbangers and guns and warrants and things like that. And one particular night, we got in a little car pursuit. Stick was in the back seat, so we were violating at least one policy by doing that. And as we were chasing them, I think maybe you remember better. I usually drove because I got, I'm a wuss. I get car sick. So I think I was driving. I think Luke was in the passenger seat, which means Luke would have been calling the pursuit on the radio. And so we chased this car for a little distance, and I'm fairly certain we ended up about 2800 North Boston Place. I actually can picture the intersection, and I think I'm right entitling it that. And, of course, the people inside the car bail out. Can't remember how many were in the car. Doesn't really matter. But we jumped out and went after him. Well, apparently I put it in park too slow, or I'm not going to admit that Sticks was faster than me. Then I would have raced him. Now, not so much.
No. There's no racing happen nowadays for many of us.
There you go. But point is that Sticks got out in front of me and ends up catching this guy and going to the ground with him. I think he safely and effectively effected the arrest, if I remember correctly.
A citizen arrest.
Yes. But a conversation quickly ensued at the termination of that event, and I was like, dude, what are you thinking? He didn't have a gun. He didn't have police power at the time either, and he's outrunning those that were in uniform and putting hands on these bad guys, and that could have turned out really bad, but it turned out really good. So as we're talking about this, I can't really tell you where it came from or what prompted me to use it, but I looked at him, I said, man, you know what? You're just a fuck stick. And Luke heard that, and Luke found that hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because it's funny.
Well, I wasn't saying it with humor at the time.
Yeah, he was not. Mike was the older wise one of that partnership for sure.
And I was a little upset with him, probably for outrunning me is probably more than anything. But the fact that he put himself in a little bit of harm's way when he didn't necessarily need to,
right.
I just wanted to make sure he understood where my opinion of that was. So fuck sticks what came out of my mouth, and I don't remember if he laughed or not, but Luke thought it was hilarious. And so even I'll take the credit for giving him the nickname, but I think I'll give Luke the credit for fostering the nickname because it quickly went from fuck stick, which, you can't really use that terminology around the general public, and for obvious reasons, it got shortened to Sticks, and I don't even know when I started doing it, but I started calling him Stick Boy.
Yeah, he
and,
started. What it was?
I could pull him up on my phone right now, and he's in my phone as Stick Boy.
Yeah, I mean that has been since. So in '97s, when I was in the police academy, at that point, both Eck and Luke were part-time firearms instructors, if I remember correctly. So every day you're on the range, they're the ones that are behind you, trying to help you shoot or yelling at you or making you do push-ups. And that's what he referred to me as, Stick Boy. And so everybody else in the academy started hearing me Stick Boy, and it just manifested from there. And the S got added to it once I got out on the streets. People on the street, just the street lingo, call me Sticks, and that is a regular question that has been asked through the years, and so Mike right here is the
Horse's
originator.
Mouth, yeah.
This is it.
So Luke was the one that made it go viral, though, right? Because we all know Luke. Luke will jabber a little bit, so I'm sure Luke was like, "Hey, you wouldn't believe what happened the other day. We're gonna call him Sticks now."
Something like that.
Something like that.
You know, if I have to be known for something after my police career is over, if I can be known for giving sticks,
whatever, man.
I'll be happy with that.
So before we, kind of get into your police career, 29 years is a very long time.
Yes, sir.
You didn't come on to the department at 22 years old.
No.
You had a few other things going on in life before you came into law enforcement. So kind of just walk through those a little bit and ultimately what led to your decision getting into policing.
Yeah, where do I start? I grew up in Norman, Oklahoma, and
OU?
was OU. Mom and Dad both worked for OU. Still an OU fan at heart. We transferred here. My dad transferred to OU from Penn State University, so I actually was born and kind of grew up partially in central Pennsylvania, so still a Penn State fan at heart as well. After graduating high school, or actually let me go back even during high school, I was a horrendous student. I hated school, probably more trouble in class than I was worth at the time. And I had a passion for baseball. Baseball was my sport. Had a little bit of success at it. And when I graduated high school, I wasn't really sure what direction my life was going to go or what I was going to do. Fortunate enough to get a baseball scholarship and was able to, with a redshirt year, play 5 years of college baseball and had a reasonably good career, good enough to be drafted. In 1988, I got drafted by the New York Yankees.
By the Yankees, yeah.
Hey,
Say, don't be
team.
home. Let's put it out there. Got drafted by the Yankees.
Got drafted by the Yankees, probably more as a courtesy to my coach at the school that I was attending at the time. He'd been there for 30-plus years and had the respect of a lot of scouts. I was not a first or second round draft pick. It was way after that.
What position you play?
I was a pitcher. I was a left-handed pitcher.
You have some action?
I had a little bit of action.
You have any heat?
Had a little bit of heat. There's an expression in baseball called pitching to contact.
Right.
If I was successful, I was getting guys to hit a ground ball to shortstop. That's what I was trying to do.
Gotcha.
I'll give you an example. In junior college, at Seminole Junior College here in Oklahoma, I threw a perfect game, which is kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of cool to do.
It's kind of cool to do. But the twist that I offer to it is I threw a perfect game with 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, I say how many strikeouts is my question.
So I had one ball hit out of the infield. I'm actually probably more proud of that than I am of the actual perfect game. The perfect game goes to the infielders that fielded every ground ball and made the play at first base. I just kind of threw it up there for them to hit it, and that's the way I pitched. Upper 80s, maybe hit 90 every once in a while, so I wasn't overpowering anybody. But I tried to outthink the hitter, and I think that probably paid off later in life.
Yeah.
So that was my baseball career, and because I was such a horrible student, I like to tell people, maybe a little bit embarrassingly so, that I majored in eligibility. So as long as I could stay on the field, I took whatever class I could get. I had the bowlings, and I had track and field, and I had I'm 6'3", and I had a college roommate that was 6'3", and we dominated in doubles tennis class because we filled up the whole court. I was a horrendous student. Big regret in my life, but an opportunity that I've had looking back to offer that to kids and kids that I've coached, that you need to take that education serious because it does make a difference.
Absolutely.
And I gave away 5 years, to be quite honest with you. Successful on the baseball field, but I had an easy opportunity for a degree and probably an advanced degree. And gave that opportunity away just because I didn't have the mindset for it.
Right.
But I got into the minor leagues, and I thought I was on my way. I thought I was going to make my career in baseball, get to the big leagues, marry something and make a bunch of money and all that. Well, that didn't happen.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. I went back. I played the full season with the Yankees that summer. Cool, it was a great opportunity, great experience. I got to play with Dion Sanders. If some of you guys may remember
Football
him being
too?
drafted in baseball, so got to meet him, hang out with him. He would have no clue who I was, and I'm very comfortable with that. He was a great guy, worked extraordinarily hard. Probably had that, if you guys remember Prime Time.
Oh, yeah.
Dion, and probably had a little bit of a bad rap with that persona. But man, never played with a guy that worked harder at his craft, and super good guy. So played with Dion. Brad Osmus was on that team. He caught in the big leagues for about 15 plus years, and ended up managing for several years. I'm not even sure if he's still managing now or not. And then a couple other guys that got up for a short amount of time. Great experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. The only thing I wish is it would have lasted a little bit longer. But when I got done playing, I came back here to Tulsa. I had just gotten married to my wife, Kristen. We've been married 33 years now.
Congrats.
So that was right after we'd gotten married. And when I got back here, I was trying to figure out what in the crap am I going to do with my life. And one of my other college roommates also from Oklahoma City area. Danny Kennedy was his name, and Danny, kind of out of the blue, put an application into the Oklahoma City Police Department. He got hired on with Oklahoma City. I'm still looking for a career. I'm dabbling in coaching here in Tulsa, and kind of paying attention to what Danny's going through in the police academy. About once a week or so, and this was way back in the day, that it was 27 cents a minute to make a long distance call.
Oh, I remember those days.
yeah.
I got in trouble for that shit.
Right, racking up phone bills. So I was talking to Danny frequently, and he was kind of relaying what this experience was like. And the more I listened to him, and the more I recognized how excited he was about what he was doing, the more excited I got. Oklahoma City had a rule that you had to be on the department for a year before you could have a ride along. So we actually, at the time, had one of those calendars that hung on our refrigerator, circled the date for his year anniversary, and I went down and rode with him. And, man, I'll tell you what, it was probably the most, looking back, hindsight, probably one of the most boring law enforcement nights that's ever happened in the Oklahoma City Police Department. We went on just a limited amount of calls. We went to a domestic. He took a report. We took a drunk guy to jail because he had a bunch of warrants. Just a very vanilla ice cream, boring night. No car chases, no fights, no nothing. Really boring. And I was like, where do I sign up to do this?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what started it is when I walked into squad meeting at the beginning of the night and seeing how the guys and girls were cutting up and ragging on each other and talking smack back and forth. The very first thing I thought of was a baseball clubhouse.
Yep, dugout.
And I was like, man, I'm home. So fortunately, I came back up here to Tulsa, went into the Tulsa Police Academy. I'm not even sure what the process is now, but I thought, well, if I want to be a policeman, I need to go to the police department. Looked it up in the yellow pages, right? Got the address.
This is like a damn time capsule
no
here.
joke.
Yeah. I had to call, I don't know, 2 or 3 different people to figure out how to get to 66th Street North.
Was that on a rotary phone?
Could have been.
Yeah.
Not out
Or
of the
a
realm of
Princess
possibility.
phone?
Pay
Yeah,
phone?
it could have been one of those, huh?
Got in the car and drove there, went in, talked to a recruiter. He put me on a ride along with an officer that I have immense respect for, a guy named Bill Yelton. And Bill was actually a former minor league baseball player himself.
Yep.
And Bill's nickname was Wild Bill. He literally drove around like his hair was on fire. And I went and rode with him.
Did you get car sick?
I did not get car sick because I was too excited and having too much fun to think about it. We went to jail half a dozen times, and that's not an exaggeration. He drove anywhere in Tulsa that a good call went out, and it was probably the best indoctrination I could get into what a policeman actually looks like.
Right.
Bill treated people with respect. He had good command presence. He was funny. He could communicate with anybody. It didn't matter what their social status was, what their race was, what their age was. Bill was just one of those guys that could talk to anybody, make them feel comfortable, and a master at getting information. So a great mentor for me and a guy that, we throw around the word hero every once in a while, and Bill did some pretty damn heroic stuff.
I was just going to say, Bill, and I was fortunate to work with Bill, and I don't want to use the word supervise Bill. We were in the same squad. I was the supervisor.
I learned a lot from him.
Learned a lot from him at the end of his career. But just as he was talking about the heroic stuff, Eck here is the commander of our SWAT team here now, and Bill was on the team for years. I was on the team at the same time as Bill and Mike, but Bill's reputation, just as Mike is talking about here, as far as just being a street cop that has that sense, the ability to talk to people, work informants and things like that. But when you talk about some of the heroic stuff, the guy's been in several shootings, throughout his career. But one of the stories I remember hearing about going through the academy, we had a retired supervisor here by the name of Jim Clark now. A behemoth of a man. I think he wrestled heavyweights at Oklahoma State University, played
Offensive
college football
lineman,
there.
too, yeah.
I mean, anybody who's wrestling at Oklahoma State is obviously a badass.
Did he have them cauliflower ears?
No, he didn't. I don't think anyone could put him on this guy.
Nobody
He's
could get
literally
him on
like
his head.
6'7", and I'm not joking. I mean, he's 300 plus pounds. He is a gigantic man. But one of the stories you heard about Bill, he had stopped a car, or was out on a call or something like that, and a guy is chasing Bill around a car, I think in a driveway or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill ends up having to go to fight with this guy, and this guy goes for Bill's gun, and Bill is able to basically trap his gun, and Bill puts his thumb through the bad guy's eyeball.
Ooh.
Now,
Yeah.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but to add to that story,
Yeah.
Luke and I are still working Footbeat at that time, and we're in. I told you we worked the high crime areas.
Mm-hmm.
Bill was working what we call street crimes at that time, doing the same thing. He sees his car pull into a driveway, probably ducking him, and that's why he gets out and starts talking to him.
Yeah.
There's a woman in the car with him, And the whole time he's having this encounter with this guy, Luke and I are within a block and a half, and because we're circling, and we're doing the same thing he's doing. We're looking for bad guys. So Bill comes on the radio eventually with shots fired and needing assistance. Well, when he actually comes on the radio, if we would have had our windows rolled down, we would have heard the shots being fired. We were that close. So you're right. I mean, that's the mentality of Bill.
Yeah.
He was a
So
hardcore
he put his
guy.
thumb through the guy's eye and shot him, right?
And shot him.
Yeah, and shot him.
Shot him in the leg.
And listen, and Bill is, like I said, Eck here is 6'3", 230, I don't know. I mean, he's a big guy. Bill is not a big guy. I mean, he was in fantastic shape, 5'9", maybe. I don't know. Something like that, 5'10", maybe. Great shape. He wasn't, a big guy. He knew how to talk to people, but, man, he got into shit.
All the time.
All the time. I mean, and I'm talking at the end of his career, I think he retired here with 20. I mean, he left here in like 2010, 2011. He had like 25 years on.
At least.
I mean, he was, 50 years old or so at that time because he played ball too and was still out here out hustling 25-year-olds on our police department. I mean, he just was. That's just who he was. And so for you to have that, your first experience come on the department of you watch.
He was my FTO.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really, I'm extraordinarily thankful for Bill Yelton and everything that he gave to me.
Yeah.
Just by allowing me to hang out around him.
Yeah. So he retired, like I said, 2011-ish, I think, something like that. And now he works, I think he's independently contracted doing stuff for the marshals, like
Service,
teaching tactics and firearms or some type of stuff like that.
No,
So
definitely not firearms.
he
could shoot.
A horrible shoot.
unless at point blank, I guess, after your thumb's in someone's eye.
Now, tactics, Mensa level tactic guy.
Yeah.
But not the best shooter.
Yeah.
So what was your route to become the SWAT commander? Because that sounds like
Squat?
SWAT.
You said squat.
You did say squat.
You did.
Well, that's what you do in the bathroom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not talking about that, though.
Okay, SWAT commander.
Speaking of bathroom, we'll get into it. You left a gun in a bathroom at one time.
Did you?
Was
That's
that
a
you?
big. Oh.
No? All right. Now, my apologies.
That was
Anyway,
Luke.
sorry. Go ahead.
I don't remember.
No, I
It's
remember.
definitely
No,
Luke.
Luke left one in a fanny pack back when I've never used a fanny pack, but back when
Why
he had
would
a
you have
fanny
a
pack.
fanny pack?
Well, he was plain clothes and he had a gun in there and he put it on the hood of his car and drove home one night and it fell off in the IDL.
Ooh,
and we had to
that's
go
bad.
back and find it, and we found the fanny pack on the IDL with a gun still in it. But no snitching here.
Did it
Sorry,
have
go ahead.
Smurfs on the
Luke
fanny pack?
Sherman.
Luke Sherman, Thomas Luke Sherman, Captain Thomas Luke Sherman.
We're drinking Blanton's, by the way, Luke. It's a good bourbon. You probably don't have it.
Smooth.
Yes. Okay. So, anyways, kind of run us, I guess, rapidly through, some other things you did on the department, and up to you being now the SWAT team commander and what all goes on with that.
Yeah.
It's pronounced squat.
So I will tell you, I will shorten the story tremendously. When we were in the academy, we had the opportunity. We were asked the question, hey, academy class, would you like to go see a SWAT demo down at the training grounds here at the academy? And so the decision was sit in classroom and do PowerPoints or go watch SWAT guys. Let's go watch SWAT guys.
Let's go.
So we went down and we watched the demo without going into great detail. Helicopter flies in. There's 4 guys standing on the skids on the outside of the helicopter. Helicopter swoops down over us, lands. They just throw flashbangs in front of our live firehouse, go inside. Unmistakable full auto MP5 fire. And I'm like, where do I sign up to do that right there? Because that's me. So we have to be on the department for 3 years before we can try out. So I waited those 3 years, and again trained with Bill Yelton. Bill was on the SWAT team at the time, hung out with SWAT guys, so I was kind of indoctrinated into that world real early in my career. Even though I couldn't try out for the team, I was hanging around with SWAT guys at work all the time, just nature of the beast. And so after waiting the 3 years, I was able to try out, and so I think I told you, I came on in September of 92, so November of 95 was the first time I was eligible and able to try out for the team, and fortunate enough to make it. Luke and I actually made it at the same time.
Gotcha.
So got on the team in 95, had a fun career on that half of it. Was on a team with some senior guys, including Bill, and Jim Clark that you mentioned earlier was my team leader. Was on the team for about 10 years, and as guys started to retire and I promoted, I was able to get to a rank that allowed me to be a team leader, and was given that opportunity, which I truly loved that opportunity to be in that position. I was able to offer solutions to problems and got additional training to do that, and it was just a great move for me.
Well, we had some officers on from Vancouver, and they had to switch out of their roles after 5 years. Are you able to stay in SWAT for more than 5 years at a time?
Yes. The only time that you're forced off of our team is if you promote past the rank of lieutenant now.
Okay.
So that next rank is captain, which is where I'm at now. And that's, going back into the story, that's what happened. Is I got to the point where I went from being one of our team leaders to I had the title of assistant team commander, which, ease of explanation, I was the team leader for the team leaders. And it sucked because I lost my team. I wasn't making entry anymore. I was stuck back at the command post. And what the role of the assistant team commander is to advise the team commander of tactical solutions and opportunities so that the team commander can make the decision. So it totally took me out of the fun stuff, and I didn't piss me off like I went to bed angry every night, but I'd trained my whole career to do that job.
You missed
now
it.
I was sitting back in the truck watching it happen. Yeah, I missed it immensely. Well, there was no way for me to go from that position back down to being a team leader. So being the smart guy that I am, I thought, if I'm going to do this, why don't I take a test, get that rank of captain, and then come back and be the guy in charge of the whole team? So that's what I did. Not necessarily by choice either. I mean, I was pretty happy at the rank that I was at. I was range master at the time, running our gun range and doing some really fun stuff there and really enjoying that. So I kind of reluctantly took the test and was fortunate enough to get promoted on a list and be promoted to captain. Went back to patrol for about 7 or 8 months, if I remember right. And then Chief Chuck Jordan moved me from that patrol captain's position to the team commander's position over SOT, and I've been there for 7 years now.
Long time.
We had Jared Reston on. He's from Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
They have a sheriff's department there that has a SWAT team.
Right.
And he pretty much said every day he was in the thick of it. He was constantly going to get bad guys, constantly getting shot at, constantly trying to get them before they were getting him. What's SWAT do around Tulsa, man? What kind of stuff do y'all do?
Sounds like a little bit less than Jackson does.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting. I guess it's kind of interesting in the police world is that the county sheriff running most of the stuff inside of the city.
Well, what it is, you've got some of your agencies have full-time SWAT teams. Your very large agencies, NYPD, LA, places like that, and they do a lot of high-risk warrants, fugitive apprehension, whatever it is, armed and barricaded call-outs, because they have a lot of that stuff that goes on. Then you've got some of your other agencies, probably like Jacksonville, where if they're not doing a quote-unquote SWAT activation call-out, they are part of units like what we have here, our fugitive warrant squad, or, they're just a full unit that goes out and patrols high crime areas, or they go out and try to find fugitives that are wanted. And so they're the SWAT team that's out doing patrol type functions until something else happens.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now, whereas our team here, and, I let you talk about it, they are everybody that's on the team, pretty much minus yourself, has another job on the department.
Right.
And then either training or if there's an activation, like I said, everything from a suicidal subject, a wanted, a high-risk warrant, that type of deal, then they basically get it used to be a pager back in the day, but they get that call out, and then they all respond.
Right. So our team's referred to as part-time,
Gotcha.
as opposed to full-time, and everybody has a regular duty assignment. My job, which I don't know if it sounds like fun or not, but I do enjoy, is I get that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning when graveyard officers have a bad guy inside of a house that doesn't want to come out, and they have exhausted their resources and their means, and they have gotten to a point where they're going to need more people or more equipment, or I hate to say more knowledge, because I think our patrol guys are really sharp people, but you're going to get to a point where you kind of run out of options. So I get those phone calls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I think, and I've told my wife this, and she's fully on board, that when those phone calls start to bother me, it's time to find something else to do, or maybe time to retire. But I still get a charge out of that. I love being able to to roll out of bed and go help people in that sense. And until I get tired of doing it, I'm fat and happy.
You know, and that's what happened to me. I mean, I was there on the team 7 years, which is in the time of people across the country on the team, that is a little bit longer than normal. And it got to the point I loved seeing everybody there, but I didn't look forward to training the way I used to.
Right.
And so that's when I just transferred into the gang unit at that time. I had a new love working in the gang unit, and training days, which were every other week, I wanted to be back at work chasing gangsters in the gang unit, and I didn't want to go to training. And so that's how I knew. I was like, hey, there's no sense in me still being on this team and taking a spot away from somebody else, giving someone else an opportunity. And that's why, it was time for me to leave. I knew it. And I will say this, talking about getting those calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, between getting on SWAT in 2000, transferring right into gangs in 2007 up until I retired. So from 2000 to 2021, you don't get to turn your phone off. You never get to turn your ringer off. And so now that I'm retired and I go to bed at night with that thing on silent, it's nice, Mike.
Right.
So
I trust you.
Someday, man, you'll get to enjoy that where you don't have to worry about that.
I have been chastised by my kids, the phone experts.
Yes.
When my phone starts screwing up, they're like, you got to turn it off.
Can't.
I can't turn it off.
Just literally, you
I
literally
really
can't.
don't have that option.
So we've got to hear a good story or two, something through
It is called Coptales after a while.
your whole career. Actually, we're going to do, before we get into any, I know you've got great SWAT stories, and so I want to hear something, either you as an entry guy, you as a team leader, you as the commander, something heroic another officer on the team did that you oversaw, something like that. I want to hear a couple of those. But I also got to talk about back in the day, there used to be a place called Louis Bowie's.
Mm-hmm. Remember it well.
Louis Bowie's is now like a really nice shopping center in North Tulsa.
Yes, it is.
This used to be a crack house that, it sounds bonkers, and people listening to this are going to make fun of us because it's Oklahoma, but there were like fucking chickens running around in the yard of this. There would be prostitutes there, crack, gangsters selling
cops
dope.
hang out where prostitutes
Dude,
are.
gangsters selling dope. It was just, it was wild. And it was this house.
Bowie's.
Louis Bowie's was the name of this place.
Yep.
And there were these gangsters that used to sell dope out there. And this is back when people peddled crack everywhere.
Popular.
It's popular. And all your bad guys in your area.
Sure.
And Mike was an active officer, as was his partner, I think, back then, Luke, and everybody else that worked around. But there was a midget that
Little people.
a legit midget who was gang affiliated, who sold crack.
What was his
A
name?
lot of crack.
He sold a lot of crack. I'm not going to say his biological name.
What was his street name? Sticks.
Actually, I don't remember his street name. We know his real name.
I can tell you his real name.
Yeah, so yeah.
And if I thought real hard, I could tell you his date of birth, too.
Yes, probably so. Yes. I will say this. The same guy, a couple years after this story, we were on a search warrant where a flashbang was thrown in on him.
Yeah.
And he came out, and he had a very tall afro at the time, and his fucking hair, man, was everywhere. But anyway, so he's selling dope out there, and you roll up on these group of guys, and officer safety reasons, of course, you have to pat everybody down for officer safety, make sure there's no weapons or anything like that. Well, as we described here, Mike is a very large guy at 6'3". Midgets are much shorter, and
hence the name.
What was the tactic you used, just to share with our
Penis
listeners,
clubbing.
of how you patted this guy down for officer safety?
Well, and I'll tell you this: just in the time that you were talking, I did remember we called him Bubba.
That was it,
Bubba.
Bubba. That was it. That
Hey,
was
my
it.
dad
Bubba.
calls
Yep.
me Bubba, I guess.
So I had
Something's-
dealt with Bubba a whole bunch of times, and Bubba was a shit talker. Probably wasn't 4 foot tall, to be quite honest with you, and I could probably get myself in real trouble here. And I don't mean anything I did with him. I was above board with him. What I'm talking about is just saying the wrong thing and socially getting myself in trouble. I digress. So to answer your question, he was a pain in the ass to pat down because he was
back
so
problems?
low to the ground. I had back problems from trying to pat his little ass down. So he drove a pickup truck all the time, and you could always tell Bubba's pickup
Was it
truck.
lowered?
No. It was, if you open up the driver's door, is he had big ass wood blocks.
Yeah, blocks on the
On
pedals.
the brakes and the gas pedal. I always got a kick out of that. And Bubba was a hoot. And so I'm starting to pat him down. And what Bubba would do to make things more difficult is he would just kind of rotate his hips a little bit. That would make it more difficult for me to pat him down. Of course, I'm bent over trying to do this. And I just kind of got fed up with him one night. So I grabbed him up underneath the arms like a 6-year-old. And I picked him up and put him on the tailgate of his truck.
And stood him up.
Stood him up and spun him around and grabbed his hands and put him behind his back and started patting him down. And I was like, this is the way to pat down Bubba. Little did I know 20 years later.
Little did you know?
Pun intended.
This wasn't a short story.
That. It was a short story. Yeah, I could get myself in trouble with Bubba. Bubba was actually, and I'll be honest with you, Bubba was a good dude.
No, he was. I mean,
he was a good guy. If you caught him at the right time, he would cut up with you, and that's the way a lot of the bad guys are that we deal with, and probably across the country. Some of these people make horrible decisions, and we catch them in the middle of those horrible decisions, and we have to take action, and so the relationship becomes contentious. But Stick knows as well as anybody, man. We deal with the same bad guys over and over and over again, and you get to have a relationship with them.
I actually just this weekend I had run over to a Quick Trip of all things I was picking up a donut, and I really was. I was picking up a couple chocolate Long Johns, but I come walking out, and a guy says, he's like, "Hey, Sticks." And I walk over, and I said, I said, "How you doing, man?" I said, "What are you doing down here?" Because he was in the part of the city that, I've known this guy before, and this isn't the part of the city I'd seen him in before. And he's like, "Man, do you remember who I am?" I said, "I know your face. I just can't remember your name." And then he tells me his street name, and right away I was like, "Holy shit, man!" And he's 41 years old now, and I was messing with him when he was 17, and dealt with him for years. He and his brother. And we just sat there literally in the Quick Trip parking lot for 15 minutes. I asked him how his mom was doing, how his brother's doing, how many kids he's got now. And we just he talked about my retirement and just all the different things going on. And it was like, and this guy was a gangster. I mean, he was a bona fide bad guy gangster that was selling dope back in the day. But just like you were saying, we've talked about it before. This shit isn't personal.
No.
And it's just they're doing what they do. We do what we do.
Yep.
You catch them by themselves. A lot of times, even while they're out there on the streets, they're fine. Now, listen, some guys are assholes. They just are.
On both sides.
I would say,
That's true.
And there's some cops that are. There's some cops who are just going to be dickheads all the time.
But you guys don't promote assholes. Assholes don't go up the chain usually.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, listen, man, the promotional process, I mean, it's a written test. It's an oral board with outside evaluators that are not from our department. So, that's done to be as unbiased, that it can be, basically, the whole process. So, but yeah, just like you were saying, dealing with Bubba or whatever like that, you have incidents like that are done for officer safety reasons that
it was legit.
are funny.
Yeah.
But it's you run into them the next time and everything's like, "Man, how you doing today?" and everything's fine.
Well, if I was really being mean to him, I would have left him up on the truck.
There you go.
I brought him back down
On your back.
softly.
So what other things you get into?
Yeah, so talk about the SWAT team stuff, man. Give us how much time we got left, Jason?
we got time
about
for a
10
story.
minutes or so, 9 minutes or so. So a couple things have stood out to you from your time on the team.
Well, it's really hard to whittle down 25 plus years to a couple of stories, as you can imagine. There's a couple things that stick out. I think if I can, I'd offer a relatively quick one that is in the bad column, and then if I can, offer one that we'll put in the good column.
We're here for you, sir.
Fantastic. Probably one of the most difficult activations that we had was, I believe, back in 2015, and it was at an apartment in South Tulsa. The short version of the background is there was a woman that lived in this apartment with her son, her 5-year-old son, divorced from her ex-husband, who and I'll say it now, was just an absolute piece of shit. She had moved several times trying to keep her residence secret from him, but they still just had joint custody of the kid. So whenever they had to exchange the kid back and forth, she would pick a separate location and not ever bring him back to her residence. Somehow he found out that she was living in this apartment complex. He comes to the apartment during the day, and this was actually kind of at the beginning of the Ring camera, monitoring your apartment or your residence kind of thing. And she had the camera on her phone, and while she's at work, she recognizes that he's at the apartment. She actually has a protective order against him, calls the police. Police come out. He's gone. She's still at work, so there's nobody to talk to. So that call is cleared real quick. Nothing comes of it. A little while later in the day, he comes back again, and this time he brings the kid back. She sees on the monitor. She calls for officers and tells dispatch, I'm on my way home. So she meets the officer at the apartment. She tells him what the issues are. She could not tell if he went into the apartment or not, so she asks the officer, here's my key. Would you please go check and make sure that he's not inside? Officer says, sure. He goes to the door, puts the key in, and starts to unlock it, and as he does so, shots ring out, and rounds start coming through the door at the officer. So he unasses. If I remember right, he runs to a staircase in close proximity, takes cover, calls for help. So that's how this thing starts out. As we're responding, we don't know if the kid's still inside or not. A very long story, a 16, 17-hour activation. The entire time, almost the entire time, this guy's talking. And if you flip through the SWAT rule book or manual, it tells you that if our suspect is talking and communicative and willing to interact with negotiators and all that, that's a positive sign. That's a good sign for hostages because, I mean, simply put, if he's talking to us and willing to talk to us, he's not doing any harm to anybody else. Now, this was an unusual set of circumstances because this is his kid.
Right.
This is his 5-year-old child that's in the apartment with him. So we're negotiating in good faith. We started asking him during the course of the night to let us talk to the kid. Nah, he's sleeping. I'm not going to wake him up. Send us a picture of him. No, I'm not going to wake him up, take a picture of him. He's in a dark room, blah, 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 blah. So kind of starts putting us off and starts making us think, not really sure what the status of this young man is. So as we continue on through the night, he eventually sends us a picture. Well, we have a guy on the team that was an intel officer at the time. Richard Muhlenberg was his name. And I tasked Richard, I said, I want you to data mine that picture. Find out what you can about that picture.
What do you mean by data mine?
Well, I don't know the secret, so I won't give up the ghost here, but I do know that there is a way to look behind the picture, and you can actually find out where it was taken at, the time and the date, and get some information off of that.
Gotcha.
I wanted to make sure that that picture was taken here and now.
Right.
And Richard comes back a little while later and goes, several days old. So ultimately, we make a decision through negotiators to confront him with this. That's not a current picture. We actually tell him, we think you've hurt your son. We think you may have killed your son. And, of course, he responds with anger. That's ridiculous. I would never hurt my son, blah, 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 blah. So as this story goes on, and maybe just so that your listeners and viewers have a little bit more of an understanding, put this in context, during this entire event, I had already talked to our snipers that if he presents himself as a target, that we don't do green light, red light stuff. That's Hollywood stuff. But just going off of our own policy and procedure, he is a hostage taker. We are concerned about the safety of this child. We believe that he will do harm to that child, and this guy is now a target of opportunity. So if you see him, if you have a clear shot in your scope, you are cleared to take it. Not necessarily put in those terms, but that is in no doubt.
To eliminate him as a threat.
Yes, and that was the message that was delivered to the snipers. So, I mean, if you can offer an intensity level to this is as high as it gets. So the negotiations continue. We're still calling his bluff. We think you've hurt your child. Let us talk to him. We actually called in a federal agency with tools that weren't really available to us at the time to see if we could establish whether or not there was two people
alive.
Yes, inside that apartment. And that person came out, and the information that they offered to us was actually kind of positive, that they felt like there were two live human beings inside that apartment, and we were encouraged by that. So understanding there's a time constraint to the story, moving towards the end, he eventually agrees to surrender. And I will never forget this. Suspect comes out. We have a protocol in place on how we're going to take him into custody, and he's talked into handcuffs, and we get him in custody. By the way, retired Marine that was, I believe he was about Jim Clark size, about 6'8", 300-plus pounds. Huge
Whopper.
man. Huge man. Biggest coward, figuratively and literally, that I've ever met in my life, and got the opportunity to tell him that. So as soon as he's in custody, our entry team immediately moves up to the door, moves in, and starts moving through the apartment. Our team leader of that entry team, at the time Sergeant Mike Parsons, came on the radio and advised the apartment was cleared, start homicide. And I'll never forget, I knew exactly why he chose those words and why he said what he said. And to bring this law enforcement career into a little put a little bit more human side to it. We got done at the scene there, cleared off of it, handed the biggest coward in the world off to patrol officers to go through the booking process and do all that. And then we took everybody and went to the closest uniform division just to give everybody an opportunity to decompress and get their wits back about them. And after 16 and a half hours of moving towards what we thought was a positive resolution of being able to rescue this kid, we found out that he had probably put a bullet in the kid's heart before we even got on scene. We could account for every round that he fired coming out of the apartment. The police never fired a shot, and this young man had a bullet to the chest that took his life from his dad's hand.
Jesus.
So
what happened to that guy?
What's that?
What happened to that guy?
He's doing life without parole. There was one person on the jury that did not believe in the death penalty, unfortunately, and I offer that from my own opinion. This guy deserves to die.
Absolutely.
I don't know how
you
a
kill your
human
own
being
kid?
is capable of that. Say again?
How do you kill your own kid?
Right?
Well, he wanted to hurt her as much as he could, bottom line. But he does. He deserves to be under the damn ground.
Yes, sir. My belief is that he was intending to do a murder-suicide.
Yeah, and
kill the
pushed out.
kid, let her come home and see the kid shot, kill her, and then take his own life. I think that was his plan from my own beliefs.
Yeah.
But that's why I go back to the title of coward. He couldn't do it. And that's one of those that you will never forget. We got all the guys back to the uniform division, and I think it's easy for people to understand. There was a lot of tears shed in that room. Just feeling that feeling of failure, of defeat. What else could we have done? And trust me, I have gone through it a million times in my own head, as everybody that was on that scene, uniform officers, SWAT guys, everybody. What could I have done different? And I think if I have to bring this to a conclusion, I don't think there's anything we would have done different that would have changed the outcome. I think that young man was dead before we got there. We had some confirmation of that through the coroner's office, that was their belief.
What did he say in his defense?
He didn't say anything.
There's no defense on that.
I know, but yeah, I mean, there's no defense in evil, but
No.
shit, people try.
No, there was recently a shooting down in Florida, and I'm sure some of you may have
I know.
seen the video. And the sheriff, which great kudos to him.
Absolutely.
Out of Brevard County?
I don't remember the county.
Talking about the car stop where that officer shot the shit out of that guy?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he gets on camera. The sheriff gets on camera and says, we've been taking a lot of questions and maybe even a lot of heat about why we shot this suspect so many times. I mean, I think I'd like to
His quote is
tattoo
great.
this on my ass, because evil can never be dead enough.
Damn right.
I'll go work for that guy any day of the week.
Absolutely. That guy, I say, just that statement alone, he's got every single deputy. He's got officers that want to come work there.
Yep.
He's got re-election.
No doubt.
Because, trying to stay away from the political side. Obviously, sheriffs are an elected position. Police chiefs are appointed typically, by the mayor and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's a lot more freedom in what they can say. But, in law enforcement, you need people that are honest like that and speak like that. So
Hey, and Brevard County was also where that other military guy went and killed his 4 people. This has all happened in the past
inside
month.
that house.
Yeah, I mean, Brevard County's shit.
Violent place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we've only got a few more minutes. Okay. Give us something positive, brother.
Let me end on this high note, and then I'll tell you the fun part at the end of it if I can.
Sure.
Short story. Ex-husband comes back to the house, confronts ex-wife with her new boyfriend.
Sure.
4 kids in the house.
Oh.
2 from this guy and the wife, 2 from new boyfriend. Bad guy comes in through the garage door, kicks the door in with a gun. Man and woman grab kids, run out. They get 3 of the kids. They leave a 2-year-old behind, not on purpose. And suspect grabs a 2-year-old kid and starts moving around the house with pistol in hand, threatening this young man's life, young child's life. I think it was a boy. Pretty nice house, actually, in a pretty nice neighborhood. And there is a balcony, a walkout balcony over the garage of this house. Patrol officers respond to it. Unfortunately, we had a supervisor that pulled his car probably too close to the scene, but as he's getting out, he grabs his dash cam and turns it towards the house. So YouTube it.
I was just going to say, I know
Tulsa
the
police sniper.
I know the exact incident.
Yes,
I was going to
sir.
say that. Get on YouTube. You can see this video. It is Fantastic.
We'll put a link.
So one of our snipers, and I'm going to go ahead and say his name if it's okay,
Yep,
just
of
because
course.
I think he deserves the credit,
Yep.
Jason Lawless. And then I'll also say Jason just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
And he's a cop named Lawless. That's funny.
Right? Every one of our snipers could have done the exact same thing. But he puts himself across the street beside the garage of the house across the street, and he gets set up, and he's covering the garage as well as this balcony. Our suspect walks out the balcony door with a 2-year-old in his left arm, pistol in his right hand. He puts the pistol in his left hand to open the door, pulls the pistol back with his right hand, walks out the open door with the pistol to the 2-year-old's head.
Jeez.
And Jason Lawless takes a shot from about 60 yards away and puts it right between the guy's running lights and kills him. We use the expression, the acronym DRT, dead right there.
Before he drops to the floor.
Before he hit the ground, he was dead. Before his head finished snapping back, he was dead. And he fell straight to the ground. Our entry team, men, they're on the move. They're moving up. They breach the front door. They get up the stairs. They rescue the kid. The video, you can see all that happening. And then you can see the officer carrying the kid out, and the heroes win, save the day. That is what we joined SWAT for. That's what we joined the police department to do,
Right.
is to do things like that.
Yep.
And then we get on SWAT teams to have the opportunity to do things like that.
Protect the innocent.
Absolutely. And what's more innocent than a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old?
Absolutely.
Yep. No, that is, and just like you were saying, people out there, I'm telling you, listening, YouTube that video. It is amazing. It's been talked about in the law enforcement community across the country because it is an amazing video to see of precision. A precision shot saving the life of a 2-year-old. How fast the team gets in there and gets that kid.
Right.
And I know Jason well. He has been in multiple shootings while on the team. The guy, he's missing a finger. So we kind of even, different story, we kind of joke about him. We call him, 4-finger lawless or something like that. We got like a nickname for him. But that guy's been in a handful of shootings on this department in that position.
Done a tremendous job.
Is
Handful.
a fantastic marksman and utilized for those reasons.
Last twist. I offer that story because I was in Arizona when that happened. And listening to it on the phone, the assistant team commander, Brandon Wyckoff, ran that. Everybody did just a fantastic job, and I love to offer that story because I'm proud. I'm proud of that team.
Yeah.
I'm proud of
Right.
those guys that do that job, that are willing to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and come out and do those things. And just like you were part of that team, Stick, I am so proud to be associated with the people that I work with in law enforcement. They're the best people, the best human beings I know, and I'm just eternally grateful to be able to count myself in that fraternity. Sorority, if you will, with the men and women of law enforcement, because it's a tremendous group of people. And again, that's why I'm really honored, Stick, that you would have me on this show.
Well, hell yeah.
Well,
Well,
I know who your audience is,
Yeah.
and man, they're righteous people, and I love to be a part of it.
Well, and saying, I know we're patting each other on the back. You have been a guy that I looked up to without a doubt throughout my career. Knew you before I got on. You, just like you were talking about, Bill Yelton was in that place for you. You were one of those guys in there for me. Kind of helped lay the groundwork and how my career went and a lot of the success that came with it. So obviously, as you and I both know, still to this day, I still reach out to you, check in on you, and vice versa. You will always be a friend. So thankful for you to be here with us. Tulsa Police Department, the people in Tulsa are lucky to have you, not only just as a Tulsa police officer, but running that team.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, man, that's it for another episode of Coptales and Cocktails. That's Mike Eckert
Cheers.
sipping on a little
Cheers to
Blanton.
you,
So
man.
thanks, brother.
Thanks for
Great
being
time.
in the
Thanks for having
studio.
me.